I would like to introduce someone that I've known for about a decade. He's well known to you now after this week, one of our favorite people. I introduce to you your administrator, Randall Coaches.
Love you guys too, tremendously. It's my honor to introduce today's after meal speaker. Lieutenant Colonel David Trader serves as the Deputy Chief of the West Virginia Division of Natural Resources Law Enforcement Section. Lieutenant Colonel Trader is a lifelong resident of West Virginia, and like a lot of us, he grew up in the woods of West Virginia, and while growing up, he developed an interest in law enforcement, and he came up with a plan. Plans are always good, to combine his interest in the outdoors with a career in law enforcement. He has an undergraduate degree in criminal justice from Marshall University. He became a West Virginia conservation officer in 1989 and has advanced through the ranks of the West Virginia Division of Natural Resources Law Enforcement Section. He is a certified firearms instructor, a certified defensive tactics instructor. He is a certified boating instructor. He serves as the state of West Virginia's representative on the National Association of State Boating Law Administrators. He is a husband, a father of 2 children, and the grandfather of 2 young ladies. He enjoys participating in outdoor activities and church activities. He's a graduate of St. Mary's High School in Pleasants County, and he is a former citizen of the American Legion Mountaineer Boys State. I want you to give him a better welcome than you have ever given me this entire week. Lieutenant Colonel David Trader.
I was looking for that guy there for a while. I wasn't sure who he was talking about. It's been a long career for me. This will be 33 and a half years of this career path of mine. I want to say good afternoon to y'all. It's certainly my pleasure to be here in such a promising group of leaders, true leaders in West Virginia. And I'd like to thank the camp. I'd like to especially thank you, Officer Kosick, for the invitation. And more importantly, and as well, is the veterans that are here. I was really impressed, and I'd like to give them a big round of applause. So, thank you. You know, school's over. We're in the summer, but you actually had a little test and you didn't even know it. So when you were coming up here to come through the line, Did anybody ever notice a cup that was down in the grass or a cup that was laying next to maybe the steps when you're coming in? We planted that for a reason. And my intention was to see if any of the younger members here would see that cup and pick it up and throw it in the trash. Unbeknownst to us, these great veterans, I think, or at least some of the staff, had beat us to it. We were watching that intensely. We had it set up for you to come in, and one of the great staff members here had reached down and picked up that trash and threw it away. So we hurriedly planted another one, but most of you didn't see it, you know. And the reason I did that, and the very reason I did that, was to talk to you a little bit about leadership. And leadership, as we get started here, and I'm going to talk about, is about action and seeing a problem and correcting it without being directed to do so. And that was just an example of somebody that saw a problem. They didn't ask anybody. They didn't get any great praise. They just jumped in, picked that cup up, and threw it in the trash, and made this whole environment something that was a little bit better for everybody. And that really exemplifies the leader. So I don't know who actually picked it up in our test, but I wanted to say thank you very much. You did a great job, and you are certainly exemplifying leadership in this atmosphere. As you mentioned before, when I was in this program, it was probably around 1983, and I was over in there. We were just talking about where I might be in the cabin, but it was someplace back in off that side, a little bit further back. I don't know the names very well, but it was certainly it was very important for me to be a part of this, and I can't stress enough how this contributed to my development and the path that Officer Kosick had mentioned, that I took. When they had the Boys State election, the governor actually selected me to be the colonel of the West Virginia State Police. And during that time frame, the colonel actually came here, flew his helicopter in, and I had the opportunity to sit out there with him and talk with him for just a few minutes. He was a busy guy, but he took the time to sit there and talk with me. I was so impressed with it. And again, it really set me on the course to my present position as I am today. And I do enjoy the outdoors so much. Did anybody see that camper out there? Anybody see me pull that camper? That was mine. Yeah, I'm going to go camping and fishing and canoeing here later on this for the next 3 or 4 days, because this is West Virginia has so much to offer, and it's such a great place for if you're an outdoors person to really get out there and experience this, in full force. People come from all over the country here where you all live just to do those activities, and most of you have that in your back door. And for me, in my position I'm doing right now as a law enforcement officer, it mixes both those together. These officers that you've seen up here this week all have that passion, all have that desire, not only to serve the citizens here in this state, but also it's because they love being out there and experiencing, and they want to keep that for your, for you and your kids and your great grandkids. That's how much we really strive for it. And as the officer mentioned, back then we were called conservation officers, game wardens, if you will, and the position was kind of oriented, if you will, to a college degree. So I had to set my path to kind of get set, go to college. I actually went to Parkersburg, at that time, Parkersburg Community College for 2 years. They've since become a 4-year, I think they associated a little bit with WVU later on, but at the time it was just a community college. I went in there, I kind of got an interest in, my criminal justice, and then from there, in my junior year, I went on down to Marshall University. And as he mentioned, I was halfway through. I was starting my second year of my master's. I was about mid course of that first semester when the opportunity came to test for this organization. And back then, there would be several people that were applying, and there may only be, a handful of positions. So I really had to strike while the iron was hot, just because if I missed that cycle, it would have gotten worse. And I've talked to the people that came in shortly after I did, that were maybe in the early 90s, and they would talk about having to take that test 2 or 3 different times just to try to get high enough scored that they would get selected for that position. That's how much, so much has really changed from then to today. Today we struggle to find people that want to do this job. And it's just because you have to have such a desire, to do it that, it's just not always there for everybody. So my advice along those lines is, if you have a true interest, find out what's needed in whatever career path you choose, and make the necessary changes in your life to accomplish those goals. And I can't tell you it's always going to be easy, and I can't always tell you that it's not going to require some sacrifice on your part, because it will. But for a person to be truly productive and successful, it is important to have an interest, a drive, and a passion for that work. Again, they asked me to talk about leadership today, and some people believe that leadership is a position, and it's not. The most common definition of leadership is motivating others towards the achievement of a specific goal and leading organizational change. So obviously, if you kind of get into that supervisory level, you're a leader, right? No, it's not true. I believe that everybody has to lead or be a leader for an organization to survive and thrive in today's workplace. Leadership is a conscious action. Always remember that. It's always going to be a conscious action to be a leader. Darielle Earnhardt she was an author of Leadership Defined in 3 Words, and she had said that the Harvard Business Review Group had asked this question, how to define leadership in just 1 or 2 words. And believe it or not, they had 16,000 responses. Now, if you'll bear with me, these particular traits I'm going to tell you about kind of keep surfacing. So it's influence, wisdom, inspiration, passion, drive, power, knowledge, credibility, energy, foresight, sensitivity, charisma, action, perseverance, uniting, and responsible. Those are just some of the few terms that popped up. And it's important to say that each of these traits are as important as you develop and grow into these leaders of tomorrow. While a leader will typically provide direction and support to the organization, it's those traits that allow the leader to truly connect to members within the organization. Jimi Hendrix said, "Knowledge speaks, but wisdom listens." One of the most important traits I can tell you is wisdom. And as a man that prays often, wisdom is my number one thing that I pray about. You see, wisdom is the ability to take knowledge, experience, good sense, and judgment into your decision making before you act. And knowledge is knowing what to say, but wisdom is knowing when to say it. And a good leader should always seek wisdom. Ronald Reagan said, "The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one that gets people to do the greatest things." A leader is one who can influence others to unite in a common purpose. Often leaders will be out front encouraging others to do the best they can as the group drives forward. It is the guy leading the charge in the face of danger. And I saw this, it was a Civil War depiction, and the lieutenant was leading his group of people into the battle as the guns were firing. You see, it's a lot easier to pull a rope than it is to push it. There's a great difference between a boss who tries to order people around and a leader who is willing to do the work alongside the others. In my career, I've always been willing to chip in and do the same work that I ask of my people. I always try to make it my goal to be the hardest worker in the room. I figure if I'm doing 100% at a task, others might be inspired to do the same thing. Albert Einstein said, "Leading by example is not the main means of influencing others. It's the only means." A leader will always set a good example for others to follow. It takes a great courage to stand up for your values in the face of criticism or adversity in the workplace. The world is not always kind. You have destructive criticism, shaming, lies, deception, and all of the tools. That's how the world operates. And a leader is always going to be trustworthy and understanding, honest and patient and kind. And his true goal is to bring out the positive change in others' lives. What you do will always have more impact than what you say. I'm going to say that again. What you do will always have more impact than what you say. Live your life like everything you do is on display for everyone to see. Integrity is always doing the right thing even when no one's looking. Author Arnold Glasgow said, "A good leader takes a little more than his share of the blame and a little less than his share of the credit." A leader should always be humble. One should always make others look good and take responsibility when things go wrong. A leader does not care about themselves looking good, but more about making the team successful. Give credit to the deserving, and do not let your ego ever get in the way of your success. The people around you will develop trust in you, and it'll always enable you to guide them in the right direction, especially in difficult times. Leadership expert John C. Maxwell once said, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." Leaders have a genuine empathy for their people. Now, do you have down days in your life? I think we all do. Do you have days whenever you think the problems are just too much for you to handle? It's normal. Of course, everybody's going to have that same thing, but empathy is always the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It recognizes that we all have similar feelings and shared experiences. Placing yourself in the shoes of another, if you will. Leaders care about the jobs others do and what motivates them to do that job. When people understand that you will be with them through difficult times, support their learning and development, your team will always become stronger. In conclusion, a leader should exhibit the traits I previously mentioned, but there's one more piece of advice I'd like to give you in general. Author John Maxwell went on to say, if you're ever in a leadership position, try to catch your people doing something right and reward them. If you can eliminate burdens on your people, do it, and always support and be a resource for your fellow workers. And lastly, if you ever talk about someone, talk about them in a good way. Be an encourager, and everybody's going to win. I wish you the best, and if I can ever be of assistance, please do not hesitate to get in touch with me. I'm down at headquarters. These gentlemen here will always be able to be a resource to get me. So again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Lieutenant Colonel Trader, I greatly appreciate you taking your time to come up here. I know you're a busy person. Thank you very much. On behalf of the American Legion Mountaineer Boys State class of 2023, it's my pleasure to present to you one of our challenge coins. Thank you, sir.